All right, here we go on a Thursday night. Law and Sporter, sports and legal talk, legal analysis. Justin Watkins, former public servant, VGK hockey fan. He's one of the first 75 who helped bring the organization to Las Vegas. So he's got to be spitting fire right now. I feel like he's a bit let down by what's going on in the series. We'll get to some of the legal stories in a little bit, but my God, can this happen again? A 3-1 lead in a series, and VGK is on the brink of potentially blowing it. They can't get the win tonight. We got a Game 7 against the Canucks tomorrow night. I'll ask you, Justin, what the frig?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I think going into Game 7, they'll still be the odds-on favorite to win. Even taking the Vegas bias out of the betting odds, I still think that they would be the favorite to win. I think that the games that they've lost, they've looked better than the games that Vancouver lost. But that being said, to me, I just don't think that this team plays with that same sort of fight for each other that first year team did. It seems like this is more corporate. I don't know. You know what I mean? I think it was put together in a more traditional way. And doesn't have the same sort of. I mean, that's the fan in me talking, But I wonder if the coach change. I wonder if the goalie controversy, if those have fractured some of the things in the room. And I think it's easy to downplay that kind of stuff. But as a person who did competitive sports, that stuff matters, man. It matters who you're playing for and why you're playing and how motivated you are to do it. So I don't know. I wonder if DeBoer has the whole room, number one. And I wonder if the goalie controversy made him lose some more of the room that maybe he had. And frankly, maybe he's got some of the room more than Turk did on some of the players. I mean, some of the players have really developed really well under DeBoer. White Cloud, Theodore has been unlocked, although I think a big part of that is the Alec Martinez move, and that pairing has really helped him out. I do think DeBoer's fresh eyes on the roster has helped to get some of the older veterans maybe out of there. I'm thinking more like England. Certainly Eakin was, Turk stuck with Eakin for far too long, and probably England too. So I don't know. I wonder. I mean, I think there's no doubt. I see there's a lot of debate online about it, but I think there's no doubt that Flurry is going to start tomorrow. And I think statistically you do that. Leonard's terrible in back-to-backs over his career. I think he's 1-7-1 in back-to-backs. At this point, his save percentage, his goals against average is lower than Flurry's in the playoffs. I don't know, maybe, and I think if there is any sort of fracture in the locker room, playing Flurry might bring the boys back together. I know that's sort of silly fan talk, but I'm a fan.
So let's go back to the comments, because that was a long comment. What do the analytics say about players being fired up and motivated? Give me the numbers on that, Adam.
About players being fired up and motivated? There are no
the analytics, because we know there's numbers on everything. And as Justin said, as the only real high-level athlete on this show, that means something.
Sure, but it means something in a way that is not quantifiable, obviously, as you pointed out. But it's also, we said this last week, right? Emotions can go either way, and feelings can go either way, and all that stuff. And when it was 3-1, everybody's like, wow, they really rallied around all this controversy. Look how great it is. And now that you lose 2 games in a row, and I'm not saying Justin, I'm saying in general, you see the emotion of people, and they're like, well, see, there was fractured locker room, and everything fell apart. And when it was 3-1, it was everybody rallied around it. Now it's 3-3, and it's a whole different story. I don't think you can say that both ways. You can break a game down in much more of how it actually happened. That the Golden Knights aren't getting good shots. They're firing shots from the blue line, just right into the chest of a goaltender and everybody's like, "Wow, what a great job." Well, no, you're just firing shots into his chest. Like, you don't have to be a high level athlete, Steve. You could have stopped 90% of those shots. They were just firing it right to the goal. So that's not really going to get it done. And the other thing, and I will point out if you want to look at the emotional angle, the not quantifiable angle, and I think Justin is onto something in terms of the first year compared to the third year. The first year, nobody expected anything. Whatever they did was a bonus, even no matter how long the season went. And I said it all along. This is a fluke. It's not going to continue. They can't keep this going. Eventually, the numbers are going to catch up to them, and they're going to lose. And they played like they didn't care, and they weren't going to hear anything, and they were just going to go keep winning. And tonight, they look like a team that was a massive favorite that was panicked that they were tested, and they had shots. And I think DeBoer pointed out after the game, like there were shots where you were right in front of the net with an open look and just missing, 6 feet wide. And that is a sign of panic and nerves and all those other things. And I think that could be a factor of, hey, there's way too much expectations now on this team, and it's tough to live up to those. So I think that's perfectly valid. But I don't want to read too much into, the emotional angle. Like we talked after that Flurry game when there was all this drama and all this controversy and the picture was out and how is this team going to respond? They responded great. Now, sometimes you can rally and respond great for one game, and then that takes it out of you down the road. That's perfectly fine. But I just think we talk about emotion all the time, and I think emotion does play into it, but it can go either way.
Yeah, I think the rally around and the emotional part of it, I mean, the rallying around only comes into play when there's adversity. So to credit them for rallying around the controversy before when they were winning, I don't think there's no rallying. Right, they're just winning, and they were winning. It seemed easily to them, right? Like they were just steamrolling everybody. And the first bit of adversity, I think, truly was today's game. I mean, I think that's the first time where they were like, "Okay, we need this game." I don't think they felt that way in Game 5. I think that they actually created better chances in this game than Game 5. And I agree with the board, like. In Game 5, they just were peppering him. I think thinking, well, he's a backup goalie. He's cold. We're just going to throw a bunch of shots on, and some of them are going to go in because he's not ready. And that didn't happen. But in Game 6 tonight, I felt like there was the puck on the stick with a significant amount of the net open a lot of times. They did get him moving. They did have opportunities, and they missed the net so many times tonight.
Yeah.
And so – for whatever that, maybe that's them tensing up. Maybe it's the expectations getting to them. Maybe it's all of the emotions. I don't know. Maybe it's the bubble, right? Like I early on thought that the bubble would favor the younger teams because they're just like, hey man, this is summer camp, right? Like this is cool. This is fine. I get to hang out with all my buddies. No big deal. And the older players would have a tougher time with it. So yeah, I don't know. I think I agree. I didn't think that Demko stole Game 5. I thought he did play really well tonight. I thought he played way better tonight than he did last night. But I do think that there was a half a dozen opportunities where we had a significant part of the net open and we just didn't convert. And I'll say this, like I've been hearing all along, and I was entertaining the discussion about Mark Stone being one of the top 5 or 10 players in the league. This is where that shows, right? Like, and he's disappeared. I feel like he's disappeared the last 2 games. Like he has not looked like he wants the puck on his stick. Every time he gets the puck on his stick over on the point, he gives it back to Shea, which is why Shea's got 70 shots in the last 2 games because nobody else will shoot. So I think, all this talk about Mark Stone being the captain and he's the best player on the team, and I think the best player on the team right now is Shea Theodore. But okay, let's say it's Stone. This is now, if you're going to be the captain of this team, you got to take over a game. And I actually don't think that Mark Stone's game translates to that. I don't think he can take over a game like, say, a McKinnon or even Pettersson, or Hughes did great tonight. I thought Hughes has been completely marginalized the entire series up until this game. This is the first time where I thought he shined.
Well, they're also getting him in much better spots because they had last change and they got to dictate who he was matched up against, and they were trying to get him up there in favorable situations as much as possible. That goes away next game, obviously. That's a big change going into Game 7.
Don't start the fourth line anymore. Please don't start the fourth line anymore to start a game.
Yeah. Tonight they definitely give up some chances early, and it set a tone right away that the Canucks just took over right from the opening drop. But then it kind of turned. The tide turned certainly in the first period after the Canucks scored, which that was a bad goal. That was a bad goal that Leonard gave up, and he was furious about it. But for the most part, like I see people's reactions of being this is all goaltender. Like that, it's so ridiculous, and so I think it's just because you want to create that narrative. And certainly that's been a conversation going into this. Although I did like Alex Faust, his comments on that yesterday with us, which were pretty funny.
I thought there was 2 soft goals tonight, or 1 semi-soft. He wide open from the point. He had a view unobstructed, and it just went right past him. The first goal was definitely soft.
Which one was that?
The third goal.
I'm trying to remember.
Maybe it was the second goal or the third
I thought
goal.
Second and third, they both had guys right in front screening. I thought.
Well,
second
the fourth
one
was empty net.
Right.
Yeah, second one had a good screen, but the third one, he had a view. He was just sitting behind the screen. He wasn't looking around the screen. He saw it. I mean, his glove went towards it. He just missed it. You know, and so like I thought that one. I wouldn't exactly call it soft, but it's a goal that you expect an elite goaltender to stop.
Sure, and he made some.
He made some good ones though.
He made some great saves tonight and kept them in the game for a long time. And I think there did come to a point where it was like, okay, it's 1-0. He's made like 4 great saves. It could have been 3 or 4-0. You've got to take advantage of it. You've got to score. You've got to do something, and he can't go score. So I don't know what people think Flurry's going to do and come in and start scoring goals. But
it goes back to the beginning of the conversation that chemistry on this team pulls more for Flurry, and they will play harder tomorrow night in front of Flurry. They won't let the nonsense that's been going down the last couple of games go on in front of the net.
And don't you think they play different with Flurry?
I thought they played like garbage in the game that Flurry played, and their best games were with Leonard. So I don't understand. Like the game that Flurry won, I think we're all forgetting that they won because Vancouver had nothing left in the gas tank on the second half of a back-to-back and fell apart in the third period when the Canucks were winning going to the third period in that game. Man. It's not like Flurry had some unbelievable game and the Knights played out of their minds. They played poorly. They were getting beat, and Vancouver ran out of gas, which I, by the way, think is going to happen tomorrow too. I think the Golden Knights will win no matter who plays goal because I think Vancouver will run out of gas just like they did last time in the second half of a back-to-back when they put everything into the day before. But they're going to get chances they have to take advantage of them. Like again, as you said, there were chances tonight. They didn't take advantage of them. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take advantage of the chances you have, you're not going to win no matter what happens. So they've got to take advantage. I think they're going to get plenty of chances. I think Vancouver will have very little in the gas tank, and we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, let's not pretend like they put Flurry in and it was some great performance. Like he should have probably lost that game, and they didn't play well.
The Thrill says Flurry has to start tomorrow. DeBoer made an error starting Leonard tonight. And here's the bottom line.
There.
Yeah. We have a bunch of analytics guys on ESPN Las Vegas, and they're going to defend Leonard to the death tomorrow. Every single person except me, because like Justin said, there are emotions that factor into this. So I like both guys. I don't have like a favorite. I like Flurry. I want a statue in front of the arena. I'm the only guy in the market saying that. But like that has nothing to do with who should start tomorrow. Right now, they're not energized. They're not fired up. Flurry will do that for them. But you guys can defend Leonard and your numbers all you want tomorrow, and I'll stand alone, and we'll see what happens.
Even if you're completely in Leonard's camp and it's based on the advanced analytics, you have to agree that Flurry is the right pick. I mean, all the advanced analytics for Leonard on back-to-backs are awful. They're terrible. So, if you live by the numbers, you got to stick with them, and the numbers would say Flurry. Flurry
was also. I mean, yes, you can look at those, but also just look at the numbers for this year. Flurry was. I've said not good this year to be nice. He was awful this season. He was awful.
Yeah. He's got better numbers in the playoffs than Leonard right now. He's got a better save percentage, better goals against average. He's ahead in both those now.
I mean, those are not really that relevant of statistics, but
but the last game he played, that's relevant because he didn't play that well and they should have lost the game. That was a relevant sample 4 minutes ago.
Wait, what?
Goalpost.
No. That's not a moving goalpost. You guys were saying when you put Flurry in, the team gets energized and they rally around him. That didn't happen. That just didn't happen.
You have to agree that when they play Flurry, the team plays differently. I'm not saying better or worse. They play differently. When Leonard's in there, they are completely – I think that they are completely worried about leaving an odd man rush. Because if you move Leonard from one post to the other, it's going in. If it's a decent shot, it's going in. He does not move well laterally, right? But if there's a lot of traffic and he gets to stay deep into the goal, he's the better goalie, right? But if you need a goalie that has to move for a save, which is why he is statistically the worst goalie in NHL history at the shootout.
That's terrible.
There's nobody worse.
Huh?
Right? He does not do good in one-on-one situations. So
if there's a penalty shot, then put him in.
No, but it matters. It matters on breakaways. It matters on trying a transition game. And I don't think they try any transition game when Leonard's in goal. And I think in game 4, when Flurry was playing, you saw them attempt transition. Now, it burned them twice, right? It did burn them twice, but they also scored 4 goals.
Yeah, but I just think this narrative of them being able to rally around him, I mean, it just didn't happen. So maybe it does tomorrow. Maybe that's what you go with. I will say this. I think there's numbers that will back up either guy playing. I think Leonard is the better goalie, and I think he probably should be the starter. But I think you should have made that decision before. To me, the only bad decision that can be made is if you question yourself. They needed to have a plan going into today. The plan couldn't have been, we're starting Leonard, who cares about Game 7? They had to have a plan. They had to know. I mean, I was sending texts about this 3 or 4 days ago, right? Like, what's the plan for 6 and 7? Like, what is going to be the plan? So they had that plan going into today. The only bad decision to me is if tonight Pete DeBoer, as he said after the game, he doesn't know. I hope that's not true. He better know.
Or that he hasn't thought about it. He said he hadn't thought about it.
I know, which is ridiculous.
Like clearly a lie.
So the only mistake you can make, no matter who you start, the only mistake is if you start questioning yourself. If you start saying, like, I don't know what I should do. You had to have a plan going into 6, and you stick with it going to 7. That has to be the case. If you start waffling and thinking about it and changing your mind and I don't know, and you wake up in the middle of the night, now maybe I should go this way, that's the only way you can make a mistake.
Yeah, I think clearly DeBoer, and I have to imagine management, thinks that Leonard's the better goalie. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Like statistically, okay. I don't even have an argument with that. But if you thought he was the better goalie, I think Flurry should have started tonight. And would it have made a difference? No, of course not. He can't score goals, right? It wouldn't have made a difference. But if that's your argument and that you don't want to play the same goalie on back-to-backs, which statistically is the right choice because Leonard is terrible in back-to-backs, then your better goalie should have been ready for Game 7, and you should have played Flurry on Game 6. So they've already messed it up.
If to me, it was either Flurry 6, Leonard 7, or Leonard both. And somehow
it's going to be neither of those.
Somehow it went the other way. Like, I don't know how that goes. I think Leonard should play both. He's your better goalie. You decided he's your starting goaltender. You go with it.
You're just going to ignore his whole career of back-to-backs?
It's also usually
it's 9 games.
Right, you're usually how many were in the same venue?
Who cares?
Because that's travel. Like there's a lot of that is travel.
You're going to blame his record on back-to-backs because he had to travel? Like the rest of the team had to travel?
Right. That in general, that's what the bigger issue is in a back-to-back. Like you don't have as much of an issue starting goalie back-to-back if you're at home both games.
I think the bigger issue on back-to-backs during the regular season is most of the time the team you're playing on the back-to-back is not playing a back-to-back.
Right. That's true.
Which is different here, right?
Right.
Both teams are on the back-to-back, which I think.
And by the way, Vancouver has a decision to make too.
I think it's going to be Markstrom.
That's the other part of this. That's the other part of this equation.
I think it's going to be Flurry Markstrom. I do.
It's crazy. But here's the other thing. And again, I do think there's arguments to be made both ways. I do. I think you can absolutely make the case, and I think you can find numbers to back up your decision both ways. I think you needed to stick with whatever your decision was, and I think you go into this. We all agree, no matter how you feel about it, no matter what your opinions are, your feelings are, we all agree the Golden Knights believe Robin Lehner is the better goaltender, right? There's no doubt about that. Nobody's going to argue that.
When you say the Golden Knights, if you mean DeBoer and management, the answer is yes.
Right,
I don't think everybody in the locker room believes that.
Okay, and that's fine. But I'm saying the organization, the people who have to make the decision, believe Robin Lehner is the better goaltender. And now you're going into a Game 7 with the goaltender that you believe is inferior. Like, that can't be a comfortable situation. You can't like that as an organization. Like, that can't be the plan.
Their stubbornness and arrogance, especially, pushed Gallant out of town, pushed Flurry to the number 2 goalie, and now they could go down in flames because they won't back off their stance. So this whole thing the last year has been an ego battle. Gallant against the head of the organization, the bosses, and now DeBoer's their guy. DeBoer's going to go with what they want. That's why he got the job. It's going to be Leonard tomorrow. Leonard will get the start, even though he's horrific back to back, and the team is not playing that hard in front of him.
I think that's a ridiculous comment. Also, I mean, they're not playing well, but they didn't play well in front of Flurry. So I can't accept that.
Well, it depends on what you mean about playing well. They scored 4 goals, right? They converted on their chances.
Right, but they didn't play a very good game. They were behind, and then Vancouver completely fell apart in gas in the third period, and they took over the game. But they didn't play well.
I'd say they didn't play well defensively. They played a fine offensive game, right? They were in the ozone the whole time, right? They converted.
Well, they have been the last 2 games too.
I know, but they converted on their chances, so they played a better game offensively because they were able to convert on their chances. They played looser defensively. And I think that's because they were trying a transition game because they are comfortable doing that in front of Flurry, but they're not comfortable doing that in front of Leonard. Because up until this game, he stopped 3 different odd man rushes. He did, right? He played, I thought, actually one of his best games as a Golden Knight.
I thought he was really good today.
Yeah, except for that first goal was terrible.
Right, his first goal was terrible.
Yeah. So I thought he stopped a lot of pucks that when I saw the odd man rush coming in, I'm like, well, there's a goal. Because up until that point, anytime it was one-on-one or an odd man rush, I'm like, it's going in. And almost all of them went in. He did get a toe stop on game 5 that kept him in it. But other than that, every game previously, odd man rush was a goal. And I think that the team knows that. And they play differently.
Well, and okay, this can't. I am not saying this should factor into their decision at all. I am not. I'm just pointing this out that there is something to think about for us, not for the team. It's pretty clear to me that they've moved on from Marc-Andre Fleury if they possibly can.
Right.
Like they don't want him to be the goaltender next year, and so they want him out. They want Leonard to resign.
I think that's right.
Leonard has said over and over again, all he wants is a place that looks at him and says, "You're our guy. We love you. You're our guy." So if you're trying to re-sign him in the offseason and you've moved on from Fleury, then you go to him and you're like, "Hey, you're our guy. We love you. Here's a contract. But by the way, we didn't play you in Game 7."
I don't think. I mean,
it shouldn't factor into their decision. It shouldn't. I'm just saying from the outside, there is that factor.
Yeah, I think the management could misplay this hand so badly that we end up with neither of them next year, because there's a lot of, based on this performance, there's going to be a lot of teams out there that they feel like they're only a goaltender away from competing. I'm just thinking like Carolina, right, is a perfect example. How much money would they be willing to throw at Fleury? I mean, at Leonard, right? Yeah. And then Fleury's like, get me out of here. I'm not playing with you guys anymore. And then we end up with neither goalie. So we go from what they've argued is the best tandem, which I don't agree with. I don't think we have the best tandem, even of the teams that are left. I don't think we have the best tandem. And I mean, we might not have the best tandem in this series, really, if Demko keeps playing like this.
Sure.
So
Mark and LV makes a point. If Flower plays and wins, that's actually the best possible outcome for management. So how about go with the best goalie tomorrow night? Don't be babies about it. When Flurry takes you to the next level, then you got something to build on when you want to trade Flurry. And Leonard can, if his panties get in a bunch because he doesn't get to play in Game 7 in the series and they go on to win the Cup, it's the way it goes, bro. Because all the Leonard people are fine with, hey, you know what? Decision's a decision. We can't let emotion get involved. Now Leonard's going to have to sit in a back-to-back situation where he stinks and he's going to get all pissed off. Too bad. Then maybe he's not the goalie for the organization.
That's fine, but my point is more if they lose. My point is if they, and again, I think they're winning whoever they play in goal. But if they lose, and you didn't let Leonard finish out a series, and you went to Flurry and he loses, I mean you are in that spot now of you made a decision, you went back on it, now you've angered them both, and again they're professionals, they should be able to move on, but.
So we're now in a position where almost no one in the league wanted Robin Lehner. They gave him a chance. They helped rebuild his value, and now he's going to be pissed off because he doesn't win a decision for a Game 7. Get out of here.
I didn't say he was. I'm saying it's something for us to think about that the team should not be thinking about it, that the players should not be thinking about. It's for us to think about of how does this situation play out? How do you go into the offseason saying like, hey, he's our guy, and then he's not our guy for Game 7? It's a weird dynamic for sure.
Oh, you nailed it. Adam nailed it in the middle of the week because he said, beyond the pressures of Game 5, man, you better start looking ahead. And you better have a plan for 6 and 7 because it's going to be a cluster F.
Yeah,
and now we're in the middle of cluster F.
I'll say this: if they re-sign Leonard and they ship off Flurry, they better try to get back Subban just for the overtime shootouts because you're just giving up a point every single time. You have no chance with Leonard in there. I mean, I think his save percentage is under 50% in shootouts.
Yeah, if he plays the way he has the last 2 years, I think you'll take that. Just give away the point and shoot out if you want.
No, but I'm saying Subban will be available again.
Fine,
get him back, and that guy never gives up a goal in a shootout. He's awesome.
That is a great plan. Just every shootout.
Yeah. And Leonard said in Chicago he's not opposed to it. He knows he's not good at shootouts, and he wouldn't take offense to being replaced just for a shootout.
Yeah. I like it.
Some of the reaction, we'll get it to the yeah, exactly. Dave Schick. Win now. Who cares about it next year? Exactly.
I'm with that.
That's completely true.
KJL on Twitter said, doesn't matter who's in the net. VGK are mental little people. I won't use that slur. VGK are mental little people. The series is over just like last year. What do you think?
Let me point this out.
Are the Golden Knights getting a reputation as mentally weak?
No, but let me point this out. This is the same thing people said last year, right? They blow the 3-1 lead. San Jose goes home for Game 7, and everybody's like, well, Golden Knights have no chance. They just lost 2 in a row. Now they have to go to San Jose. All the momentum in the world. And the Golden Knights, let's face it, won that game. You can look at momentum. You can look at all these other things. You can call a team done. Last year, they looked done. They looked finished. They went back to San Jose, and they dominated that game and should have won that game if not for a ridiculous call and then Flurry falling apart at the end of the game. But, I mean, yeah, they should have still won that game. They were the better team.
What about this one that Demko is on the edge of falling apart, which is a pretty bold statement after what we've seen the last 2 nights. Once we get a goal tomorrow, the floodgate should open on Demko, and he will regress to the mean.
I don't know he's playing.
I thought that was going to happen this third period, to be honest.
So did I.
Not because of Demko, but because of our confidence level.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Golden Knights just need one, and you're right. I think it'll be both. It'll be first of all, the Golden Knights will get confidence because they're clearly not confident right now offensively. There's nothing happening. And then I think he'll start thinking about it a little bit too. He'll start thinking about, okay, I'm human and get in his head. But again, I don't think he's starting tomorrow, which is the crazy part of this equation. And I thought it would happen tonight. I thought even when they went down 2-0, I was like, if they get one, they're going to score 3.
And what's funny is Mark Stone's a really good goalie and has really good statistics, except against Vegas.
Yeah.
Throughout his whole career, Vegas just owns him for whatever reason. So it would be a bold move by them to play him.
It would. It'd be crazy. It would be really crazy. I'm intrigued by it.
Something else Adam pushed back on, and I got some Twitter pushback on this one as well. After Game 1, I was kind of developing the story that around the country, well, both countries, the Knights are becoming very much a hated team. And I pointed it out to you that some of the arrogance of game one and the bullshit of calling Pettersson little squirt. How's that feel now? How's that working out?
Yeah, but I thought the same thing.
Circles around him. He's in front of the net all the time. What's going on? I thought he's a little squirt. Come on now. Let's go.
That's the other thing about Leonard's game that, not to keep going back to the goalies, but because he plays so deep in the net, he never pushes the screener off, right? Like you see when Flurry's in there, he's bumping, he's moving the screen out of the way. And you don't see Leonard do that because he's so deep in his net. But I agreed with you about the arrogance, except for when you heard Pete DeBoer's press conference. He's like, "Oh, they've always been like that. They were like that against me all the time." Right. So I don't think it's like a new thing. I think they just VGK talks a lot of shit like when they're out there, whatever. Yeah,
gotta back it up though. If you're gonna call a guy a little squirt and then he dominates parts of the series, that's embarrassing.
Well, they were going after him again tonight for alleged diving, which I'm sure Marchessault is participating in that. Exactly. There were some quotes tweeted out by one of the Vancouver beat writers that were pretty inflammatory.
He did embellish that fucking penalty, and they did. They are like they freaking their coach said. He said like, hey, we rely on the power play. It's important that we get those. And he said it in the press conference, not after this game, but before this game. And so, like, I think he absolutely signaled them to take dives if you can. And face it, there's been some bullshit penalties. I mean, probably both ways, but certainly the two penalties against Marchessault last game were complete bullshit. But whatever. Marchessault needs to stop committing penalties and worry about putting the puck in the net.
It's the same fucking guy every night. Fucking limp dick. Fucking awful was the quotes from the Golden Knights bench about Pettersson.
Yeah, I like that. Fuck it.
Stop wasting my time, Jonathan Marchessault.
Has he even gotten a point since that?
He's wasting time.
I know he hasn't scored a goal since the controversy.
Has the team scored a goal?
Yeah. I don't know.
Where's the
point? Shut up.
Adam, where's the poll right now? You guys put it up there. RJ, who should play? Leonard, Flurry, 555 votes. I just voted for Flurry. That should put me over the top. Flurry, 83%. Let's go. 83% Marc-Andre Fleury.
I've always said what
real knowledgeable hockey fans in this market, not media jabronis who have linked up behind this analytics bull crap, and they're just going to stand with their man Leonard. The fans know hockey in this market.
Well, what you're saying is also the fans know more than the organization. Like, so when you say the people have lined up with the analytics or whatever, no, it's also lining up with what the coach, the general manager, the co-general manager, or however you want to refer to him.
The truly emotional people in this whole thing, because they backed Leonard by getting Blatt out of here, and now they're like, hey, we have to back up what we did, so we're just going to go with Leonard even though he's 10% winner in back-to-backs.
And by the way, I'm actually seeing people on Twitter now with Fire DeBoer.
Oh, is that right? Okay, that's a little too much.
I mean, come on.
I don't know, man. Like, okay. I'll tell you this: he's been outcoached in this series. He's been
the last outcoached. 2 games. The last
yes,
2?
for sure. He's been outcoached the last 2 games. No doubt about it. The last thing that the Knights were completely caught off guard in Game 5 with Vancouver going into a shell, not even worried about getting in the offensive zone unless it was a transition. And it worked for them. I mean, I don't know how often that's going to work for you, but it worked for them. And we clearly did not foresee that coming. We did not plan for it. We had no answer for it. We just kept throwing shots on goal that were right in the crest.
Again, I mean, yes, in that game. And tonight, I really don't think that was the case. I think they couldn't actually put it on net. They couldn't put it on net.
Wow.
Like they had shots right in front of the net and just fired wide.
This is amazing. I'm looking at the other major outlets for hockey in the market. Another one, you guys with 550 votes. This one has 2021. They've got 82% Marc-Andre Fleury. How is that? Almost on the money.
He's beloved throughout the
I'm not
league.
surprised. I mean, I'm pretty sure if Leonard had 3 straight shutouts, it would be 60-40 for Flurry.
I don't know about that.
I think it would.
I think the bottom line for the fan base, I'll speak as a fan, is if they're goaltending probably isn't going to make the difference tomorrow, right? And so if they're going to lose, they would rather lose with giving Fleury a shot than lose with Leonard for 4 games. And Fleury to have gone undefeated in the bubble and Leonard to lose all 4 games when we were told we had 2 starting goalies, 1A, 1B, we're going to rotate, right? Like, I think they created this, right? Instead of when they picked up Leonard, they clearly told Fleury that he was still going to be like the starter, or it's going to be a rotation, or it's going to be 50-50. I think that's the whole impetus of the sword in the back, is all about what he was told at the time of the trade. Then they told the fan base, like, Fleury's our starter. This contract's going to expire, right? Like, they told us, and I think when we got here, now we realize you were bullshitting us. That's not what you thought. You got a starter, and you know what? I don't hate it. Go get the best player, and if all you have to give up is a second rounder, go get him. But just don't lie to us about it.
So are you saying people should have listened to me instead of everyone else?
Well, they should have listened to the organization. That's the problem.
Right.
And now,
I mean, from the beginning when they got him, we were saying every day on the show that this is Leonard's job. He's the starter. This is what it is. And so, I agree with you. The messaging was bad. I think, first of all, I don't think they told Fleury he was the co-starter. I think he probably knew more. And I think the organization was just trying to, for whatever reason, placate the fans, trying to ease them into it. I think they should have just pulled the Band-Aid, which is probably the better way to do it. But they were trying to play some PR games, which they probably shouldn't have. And it has backfired somewhat. Not that people would have handled it better, but at least they would have been more prepared for what they were getting into.
I don't think it's PR games. I don't think this team gives a shit about PR. They've never shown that they actually care what the fans think. I think they just I just think they think that fans are fucking stupid and they can tell them whatever they want.
It's probably true.
I really do. Right? Like, you don't fire Turk and hire DeBoer the same day if you give a shit about PR.
That's true.
So I think that they just think, well, maybe if I give them the benefit of the doubt, they think, hey, man, we're this fucking close to winning the cup. And when we win a cup, nobody's going to care, right? We'll win the cup. All this gets taken care of. So
that is true
just ignore. Yeah, just ignore what the fans are saying.
For sure.
And I'll say, like, also the TV, the radio, the pre-post, everything. There was clearly a message that was sent on how to discuss this, because they were not having any criticism of Leonard after any game for anything. Like, we're not having it. Like, no, that was fine. That's perfect. It was okay.
In fairness, that's also the Marc-Andre Fleury treatment. In fairness.
No, I don't. Well, maybe.
So repeat what you're saying. You think the team, the broadcasters are behind Leonard almost as a directive from the organization?
I don't know who they're behind, but what I'm telling you is, like, I listen to all the shows, right? I listen to all the podcasts afterwards, and like, anytime they, like, if it's a radio show and they took callers or they were reading comments, they were not having it about any criticism of Leonard. Nope, Leonard was perfect. Nope, those weren't soft goals. Nope, no goaltender will stop those goals. Like, there's just not having it. Tonight was the first night Lawless was on after the first intermission and basically said Leonard blew that first goal. And that's the first time I've heard any criticism. But he's had other bad goals. The freaking goal, nobody talks about this, but the goal against Chicago in Game 4 when he lost, he put it in his own net. He raked it in himself, and Taves gets the goal, and nobody talks about how Leonard can't handle anything in the crease. He just lets it go right by him, right in the crease. And if he sticks his paddle out there, he puts it in his own net. He almost did it twice. But they weren't having it. It was an excellent play by Taves. Like, you can't stop it. Nothing you can do.
Plenty of criticism on the head goal.
No, I don't think so. Fluky, you can't prepare for that. No. I'm talking about by team-run media, not all other media outlets. There's been plenty of criticism elsewhere.
And Mark was saying can be. No, that's not what he's talking about. Justin has already said Sin Bin's the number one podcast for hockey in the market over every other podcast out there. So he likes
that's team media though.
Yeah, he's talking about the team media.
No, that is team media.
I don't know, not according to Justin, who watches the podcast and says they go pretty hard at him. So I know you have a rival podcast, but you know,
I'm talking about VGK paid team members.
No, I know.
Right? That's what. I know what you're saying. I know your argument.
He's alleging that Sin Bin is very pro Golden Knights.
Yeah, they say they're fans. That's cool. I'm talking about employees of VGK. That's what I'm talking about.
No, what I'm saying is I know.
I know what you're saying. But if that's true, if they're still on the payroll of VGK or Foley or the owners over at Sin Bin, it hasn't stopped them from fucking criticizing.
Oh, that's true. That is correct.
Right? They criticize left and right. I'm saying there's no criticism from VGK media.
By the way, to Andrew's point, that doesn't always have to be the case. I don't believe that's the case. The team-run media is always going to play it soft. You know, they work in the same building. I don't believe that's a guarantee in all sports with all broadcasters tied to teams. So I think there are some who will be objective.
I don't know. It's kind of your job to tell the positive spin, right?
You can give a positive spin, but I think Justin's saying they refuse to criticize. That's a different thing.
Right. Like not even having the argument. Like not even having the discussion.
Not even broached.
Yeah. Well, right, but like I said, Flurry was awful this year, and it was every game. It was, hey, it's not him. He's not the problem. It was every game.
How about a roundup? Because I don't think we've made it clear. So CJ Cards fan is saying, who's going to start Game 7? Flurry from me. Justin says Flurry. Adam says Leonard. No, I'm saying Leonard. I want Flurry to start, but I'm saying Leonard will start.
No, I think they panic and go Flurry.
All right, so he's wrong on that one. So it's actually
yeah.
So you got me right.
The bookends are wrong and Flurry's in the middle. So we got two Flurries and a Leonard. So I'm actually the only one who thinks Leonard will start.
Yeah, I think Leonard should. Flurry will.
All right.
And I said I think they win no matter who starts.
On the media,
the betting lines up there minus 250.
Yeah, on the media thing, if they want to stay employed, they will not criticize.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
well, we saw the
VGK maybe.
Or we saw the Bills team reporter banned from the facility.
Yeah, but if you say Sin Bin is organizational media, they still criticize.
I think they criticize, but it's a different setup. It's sponsored by, but not on the payroll directly. Different scenario. And I think it benefits them to not be very pro. Always.
So now when someone criticizes that, it's just an agenda, it's fake.
No, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm saying it would help if you have a team media site, everybody knows, hey, that's team media.
Right.
But if you have an outlet that you sponsor but don't reveal, and you're kind of both ways, and it kind of comes in handy when you do go positive, like, oh, they're objective.
So what is the line tomorrow? 210?
I'm gonna be higher.
Yeah, still? Man.
Yeah. And I expect money to come in on VGK also.
So if it was 210, you think it'll ultimately settle where it was tonight, like 240, 250?
I think when they announced Leonard was in today, because I think a lot of people thought Flurry was going to start, and when they announced Leonard, the line went through the roof. The Sharps were just loving the Golden Knights after that announcement. So I'm trying to find if they've posted it yet. But I do imagine it'll be higher, and I think people will bet, the Sharps will bet on the Golden Knights.
I have no idea about staffing, and I don't really know that side at all. If Sinbin was team media, why did Steve Carp was doing stuff?
It's not team media. I think we got to be clear on that. It's not team media.
Okay, but you keep saying it is.
There's a revenue agreement, but it's not team media, in my opinion. I have no idea.
And I don't know what the Carp story is, so apparently Adam's not going to speak on it.
I'm trying to find the line. I'm seeing a 235. 235 for tomorrow. And Colorado minus 130.
Woo. Okay. All right. Couple of legal topics and sports topics that could need legal analysis. I'm going to jump ahead. We had a rundown, but we had a lot of good hockey talk here and good comments. Really good comments throughout this VGK postgame of sorts. Let's talk about fans at games, right? We'll get to Vegas and Adam and Justin's opinion on Raiders fans the Raider organization zeroing out the fans for the entire season. So that's the situation right now. Florida Gator football, Riverboat Ron running the state, right? Let's roll the dice in every way possible. They're going to allow 17,000 at their games. Justin, what do you think? 17,000 at Florida Gator games. Can we distancing?
I struggle with this a little bit because his comment was, if you don't feel safe, don't go. And for better or worse,
he didn't say that. That's actually Iowa State is going to allow 25,000. That's actually the Iowa governor who did say the only response from her was, if you don't feel safe, don't go.
Yeah, I mean, so from one perspective, I appreciate that kind of thought process as part of the American way, right? Like, if you want to be stupid and put yourself in danger, you're allowed to be stupid and put yourself in danger. But here, we've got the CDC saying, like, the biggest risks associated to our entire population is by groups of people getting together, large groups of people. So it's not, the risk is not limited to that arena or that stadium, and then, you know, either only the people who went there get it or don't get it, and only the people who went there die or don't die. The CDC said that's the single biggest risk. You know, I'd be interested to see what their plans are. How do you file people in? How do you keep the distance? You know, if they've got a good plan, you know, I'm in favor of trying to get the economy back on track in the safest way possible. Clearly, mask mandates have had an effect, a good effect on our numbers here in Nevada, and I think nationwide. So, you know, mask separation, you know, line up so long before in a fashion where you keep a distance. You know, frankly, it's not going to be a heck of a lot different than what voting is going to be like in some states that haven't approved mail-in voting. So I don't know. I don't have a strong take on it. It's not something, if I was a governor of a state, it's not something I would be doing, I guess is all I can say.
But I think, I mean, the bottom line is you're right about that in terms of it's not you. Like,
Right.
We have to say this every time, but if you don't feel safe, don't go. Well, then are those people that are going to games not allowed to go out the rest of the week? Because that's the issue. I mean, I don't know how much you guys have read about that wedding in Maine that ended up being like a super spreader event because the pastor is this very anti-mask, like, they're not going to do this. And they ended up allowing a wedding. And one person at the wedding had it. It spread to a bunch of people there. And then it spread into all these communities where we went back to. And now there's, I think there was one death and a couple that are close to death that weren't at the wedding, that were not at the wedding.
By the way, not saying woohoo over the death. Yeah, the headline here, COVID-19 spread at Maine wedding, now linked to 143 cases.
Right. And a bunch of people that weren't at the wedding.
And you said one death and also outbreak at jail. What?
Yeah, because one of the people was like a guard or something.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So again, it's not
68 cases of people in jail.
Yeah. So again, it's not like if you want to go to the game and you want to put yourself at risk, that's 100% fine. I agree with you. But it's not about the people that go. It's about the people that go, get something, and bring it back to all these other people that are choosing not to go, and that you're bringing it back to the community. That's where the issues are.
Your brother says essentially the death is not that important. She was 83.
Right. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if the argument was if you go to the game, then you mandated a 14-day quarantine or something. It'd be an interesting approach to something like that. And how can you fix that? I don't know. You get the little transponders that you have when you go to Raiders practices and you put it on everybody when they go in or something. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could try to be clever about it. But clearly, some of these states don't think that it's their job to protect everybody from being sick, and that's ultimately they're just saying like, hey, you could get sick at any time with all kinds of stuff, and we're just gonna let it play itself out. For the most part, we'll do masks, we'll do distancing because the CDC's recommended that, but otherwise, go for it. Like I said, it's not something I would do if I was governor.
John Lynn was asking, does the university have a liability if people get sick, say, an Iowa State game or a Florida game?
Hard to prove.
Well,
does anyone
Iowa State?
Go
ahead.
No.
Iowa State and Ohio State are both government schools,
right.
State-run schools, so they're very likely to have immunity from any legal liability. So I would think it would be highly unlikely that you would see that. But as we're sitting here criticizing 16,000.
Oh, your volume went out.
Uh-oh.
Can he hear us? Oh no, he's just speaking. Your volume went out. Oh no, that's a disaster. How did that happen?
Did you mute him?
He's muting. I didn't mute him. There he is. You're back now.
Don't forget that we are allowing tens of thousands of people in our casinos right now.
Yep.
Right? We're doing it for our economic reasons. If you're Iowa City or you're, I don't know, what city was it in Florida that's doing this?
Gainesville.
Oh, University of Florida. So we got Gainesville. So, I mean, those are college towns. They're doing it for their economic purposes too. I mean, it's hard for us to cast stones when we're in a glass house over here, letting people go into casinos. And then we even have the extra irresponsible aspect of it where we don't even care because we're sending them back home, right, on flights back to other states. So more than likely, if there is COVID spreading in our casinos and we're testing, we're catching a fraction of what's being transmitted in these casinos because people probably aren't feeling any symptoms and aren't going getting tested until they get back home.
You don't think when people go home, they're going to try to bring up cases? People go back to Arizona, back to California, attorneys who are from California are like, hey, this is a chance to go after casinos. You don't think the out of state are going to come after us?
Can't. Legal immunity. Just passed it in the special session. It's over. Can't do it. The legal immunity is a little bit different. I mean, I could jump down this rabbit hole, but basically you only get the immunity if you're adhering to protocol. And that's any guidelines are questionable whether or not they're included. Any mandates regarding healthcare, regarding the transmission of COVID. Right now, the way I read it, that's only the governor's directive, which is basically mask mandate and occupancy levels, 50% occupancy. So as long as they're doing that, then they're going to have legal immunity limited unless you can show gross negligence. But I don't know how you show gross negligence if they're meeting the minimum legal standards, right? So you don't have a regular negligence claim. So in essence, there is legal immunity. It's not blanket immunity. It's not full immunity. There are ways in which you could bring a case. I think the only way you'll ever see it against a casino here in Vegas is if there is a major outbreak, several hundred or thousand people, because then proving transmission will be a lot easier. And then maybe you'll see a claim.
And that'll be the same thing here moving forward when shows open and anything in the casino, there's really no protection.
Anything in the casino, yeah, same blanket immunity. Anything in any business that is not a hospital, it's not a school. There are some other exceptions: nursing homes, surgery centers, Most healthcare professionals are not going to be included in the immunity protections. But otherwise, any business, any nonprofit, anybody else, you're protected.
Hey, Adam, going back to an old story, refresh me on your whole push for getting rid of act of God. What was that whole discussion about? We talked about act of God in cases.
Well, my claim would be there's no such thing. So what does that even mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah, you want the active universe.
They have changed it, or they should.
No, that's what you're lobbying for.
Yeah. Yes.
Or
because if you want to go into court and claim something as act of God and use it to shield yourself or whatever, my counter would be, what are you talking about? There's absolutely no such thing. So what does that even mean?
Right.
I don't know how that would go over, especially because I would argue there is a separation of church and state.
Well, I'm just guessing if you had a jury, it would go one or two ways. It'd go over really well or really poorly.
I bet you can get one.
Yeah.
Our numbers of people that are intelligent enough to know there's no God are really going up. Like really, really going up. So I feel in a jury of 12, you'd have a good chance of having one.
Yeah, but it depends on what side you're on. One's not enough. One's enough in federal court. On a 12-person jury, it has to be unanimous. Okay, so one's enough there.
Yeah.
But in state court, where most cases are, number one, it's not a 12-man jury, and two, you have to get 6 of 8 on your side. If you're the one trying to get something, if you're the defendant, you just need to convince 3.
Well, that doesn't seem fair.
Burden of proof.
So let's go back.
3 of 12.
Sorry. Let's go back to when some jobs started opening up and people are like, yeah, I'm not coming back. And their reason would be, hey, I have a fear of COVID. What was their protection at the time? Remind me of, hey, I don't want to come to work. I have a fear of COVID. Can you fire them? They're like, hey, I'm legitimately scared of COVID. I'm not coming in.
You talk about in Nevada?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you can fire them.
Okay.
Right? In Nevada, we are a right to work state, which means employers have a right to not let you work for any reason, no reason, so long as it's not discriminatory. And so fear of COVID, fear of transmittable diseases is not protected. It's not a protected class of people. And so discriminating against people who have that fear there's no legal protection for that. So yeah, you could fire them. The question becomes, I think the harder question is, do you lose your unemployment benefits if that's the only job that's being offered is something out there that requires you to be in and around a whole bunch of people, and you say you have a high-risk person in your household, or you yourself are high risk, would they yank your unemployment benefits? And the answer in Nevada apparently is yes, they will yank your unemployment benefits.
Sweet.
If you can get them, by the way.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the challenge on the front end. LA County Court and a county in Arizona will not accept, quote, fear of COVID as a justifiable reason to be exempt from jury duty. What do you think of that one?
I don't love it. I understand what they're trying to do is people come up with the stupidest reasons or any reasons to not serve on jury duty. The bigger issue here is you shouldn't be having jury trials right now. We're not having jury trials right now. There's no jury trial happening in the state of Nevada right now.
Why not? Isn't that stupid? Can't we have the precautions put in place to start having jury trials again?
I don't think you're going to see a jury trial in the state of Nevada until we have a vaccine or until our numbers are 0.
Don't worry, November 1st. We're good.
Yeah, ready to go.
I told you. I told you it was going to happen.
There will not be a vaccine on November 1st. That's my prediction. I think this is all just the CDC has specifically said in regards to that we're not saying a vaccine will be ready November 1st. We want the states to be prepared for the distribution of the vaccine by November 1st, right?
Okay.
We want the plan in place so that when the vaccine is ready to go, you're ready to deploy. That's all that statement was.
And why'd they pick that day?
Who cares?
You know why they picked that day.
But does that get you anywhere politically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes, because watch on November 1st, this is what's going to happen, or even October 30th, somewhere around there. the announcement will be, guess what? Next week, it's rolling out. It's rolling out. We're good. It's rolling out next week. And November 8th, it starts rolling out.
Right.
That's what it's going to be.
But I think the people. Do you think that really is going to garner any votes at this point in this race for president?
Sadly, maybe.
I don't think so. I think the people who don't believe this president aren't going to believe that statement, and the people who do believe it will believe it.
There's somehow still undecided people.
Not that many, dude.
How could it even be possible at this point?
I think some people like to say they're undecided. I think some people like being a swing voter. You know what I mean?
How could you possibly be undecided at this? Wasn't there a movie? God, this is a while ago, and this is the kind of movie that maybe I would like, and maybe Justin would like it, but it may be too goofy. Wasn't there a movie where there was one undecided voter in the country?
Oh yeah, I never watched it, but I remember the trailer.
And I do too. And I don't think I saw the movie, but I think it was like one undecided guy, and like both campaigns are like, we got to get this guy. Like, this is the guy we got to get. That's a great concept for a movie. I didn't watch it; it didn't get me, but it's a good concept.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the trial story, and COVID and delays and all that. Brady was asking, what happens to the right to a speedy trial?
Yeah, I mean,
act of God.
So it depends on. There's the approach that they have taken is nonviolent offenders, and they basically removed the bail bond requirement from misdemeanors and low-level offenders, so that they are not being held in jail waiting this trial because they don't believe it's safe to have the speedy trial. The higher level offenders who are in on bond and the super high bond that they can't afford, there's not trials going on yet right now. Wow. So, I mean, the argument would be, yes, you have a constitutional right to a speedy trial, but your right to your constitutional rights can't impact the constitutional rights of somebody else, right? Like, so I can't put you in danger for my right to a speedy trial. So I think, to your point, can't we come up in this technological age with a way in which we can conduct trials? I think we're getting there. I mean, the reality is the courts all but shut down for like 3 months to try to advance technology to the place that we can have court hearings, and we do have court hearings now. And we appear telephonically, although and by video. Although, you know what? We are allowed to go to court now on certain hearings. So if they haven't started criminal jury trials, they're probably right around the corner. So that'll start happening soon, I think. But civil trials, like what I do, forget it. Like 2021, I bet.
What about John's question? What's the impact of delaying jury trials? What are some of the impacts?
Yeah, you sit in jail. Innocent people could be sitting in jail, for sure.
All right.
That's the real impact. I mean, impacts for my civil trial, what does it mean? It means a delay in justice, right? But ultimately, we're not stopping the work that we do to prepare for trial. We're still moving forward with cases. It's just that instead of having a trial date in October, it's more likely going to be a trial date in February. But I'll tell you, just right now, we're not even getting trial setting orders. So there's just we don't know. There's just no trial settings happening.
Here's a good question. By the way, why didn't Steve or Adam vote in the 2020 primary election?
Neither of you guys voted in the primary?
What, did somebody look
Is it
this
because
up?
you're not registered with the party?
I am.
Oh.
I'm. You're talking about the election because I'm not allowed to caucus.
It wasn't a caucus though; it was mail-in.
Right. I'm saying, well, okay. From the last time, I knew that from the 2016, I'm not allowed to caucus. So that's why it was 2016. This year I'm trying to think where I was, because I usually do. So I don't know. It's a good question.
Okay, we got it, Mark. We got it.
Wow.
We got it.
Nice.
Well, you got the answer, right? Why didn't I vote? Because I'm not registered with either party. I have no interest in aligning myself with either one of these parties.
Yeah, I usually do vote, but like I said, I don't know. I'm traveling a lot. Well, Steve can't. Steve has no ground to stand on for that.
No, I
one.
don't have any.
Yeah, Steve's very much a creeper for all these sites.
I can tell you what everyone at work, has in terms of their affiliation. So
It's not hard to find.
hey, I know it's not hard to find. Yeah, but I just gave you the reason. I'm not interested in partaking in the nonsense that goes on. We got a serious issue to close out on, and I feel like Justin needs to make a call. We talk all the time about Justin. He's Judge Justin. But the problem is he's part of the case. So I don't know how this is going to play out. He might lose his objectivity once he hears his name being cleared. You missed last night.
Hold on. Have you heard it yet, Justin? Have you heard the audio?
I haven't heard the audio yet. And I'm a professional. I can remove my personal bias and make it objective.
I don't know if you can. I feel like you're already going to side against me. That's all right.
So last night, Adam went into like his full crazy fantasy football mode, right? And the great thing here is we know Adam to be a lunatic, and he's not well liked by some people because he's crazy, and I've dealt with it for all these years. Our friend Seren Petro thinks like, Adam's the stable guy. He's just a nice guy. Like Cofield's a dick, right? And I always look at him when he says it. I'm like, you have no idea.
Because he knows us.
He went head to head last night with Adam on this video on, as we'll call it, David Montgomery Gate. This is 8 minutes condensed.
Wait, without even hearing it, do you know what the problem is, Justin?
With David Montgomery? Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I remember the issue.
Okay, well, before you hear, what was the problem with David Montgomery?
That you were the high bidder, that you had him targeted, and that it looked like he was going to survive maybe your bid, and that Petro started talking him up and saying,
No. That was Antonio Gibson.
Let's listen.
Okay, then I don't know.
Let's start it again. He's getting all worked up. And we also were talking about the talking of shit to drive guys up. Adam hates that. So Petro's like, will you chill out? It's just fantasy football.
Fantasy football, right? I mean,
yeah. No, as I said, though, once you pay for it, it's not a game anymore. It's not. If it's free, then it's a game and it's fun. We can do whatever we want. This is competition.
And this is part of it. This is how this league works. Go to the monastery and sit in silence in that league. This league is going to fly every second from anyone who's not passed out.
One of the reasons I was the most upset.
Okay, so can we just settle this? The trash talking during the draft. Adam's the only one that has an issue with it.
Correct.
And he's wrong.
No, I'm all for trash talking. Let's get that straight. Trash talking is not my issue. My issue is informing people who are not as well informed to bid against people that are more well-informed. You can bid all you want. You can't tell other people to bid when you're not bidding. When they have no idea who the player is. The person who bid did not even know who this guy was. And you got him to bid on him, which is infuriating. But I get it. You guys are going to do that, and it's bullshit, and I think there should be a rule against it, but I've lost out on that. So I accept it. I can still get mad about it, but I accept it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're the rules are, right? And there's no rule against it. And so
exactly.
When you throw your money into the league, you know what the rules are. And so
I've proposed the rule. It got shot down. That's fine. Yeah. You keep doing it. But there's not a rule against getting mad about it either.
No. But what do you want me to decide? You're admitting you're wrong.
No, we're not to there yet. We're not to there yet.
He explains why, and as Rick said, you're not accepting it. Here's why he got mad.
The most upset is because I was still mad about David Montgomery. So he's sitting out there. He's the only guy left, and I think Steve was interested in him too. And as it got down, I was like, well, he is still the starting running back. So at some point, Justin's computer goes down, and he's like, I'm out. I'm locked out. So we're like, pause it.
What happened?
Then I came back in and started bidding. I didn't say pause it. I said keep running, actually.
No, Adam started.
We get to that. I said pause it. Pause it. And he goes, no, I don't care. Just let it throw out whoever. And I'm like, no, pause the draft. Because the auto draft is David Montgomery, and I don't want him thrown out right now. And he's like, no, just let it go. Just let it go. I don't care. And then, of course, it auto throws out David Montgomery.
You seriously, the world has you for years, and I do love that.
True. It's true.
You nailed that one.
But there's no rule against auto drafting either. I could have auto drafted the whole time.
It's not the auto draft. No. It was, and we got to it. Are you still playing it? Are you still playing it? No. Are you still playing it?
I stopped it.
But there's still more, right?
Yes, there's still more.
Right. We get to it. You're right, Justin. But we get to the problem.
Yeah, we the Vast Sound Crew had to bleep this. Actually, Damon is a new member of the Vast Sound Crew, so Damon got stuck bleeping this audio.
By the way, more inside humor. I saw Damon after the show, and I was like, "Hey, congrats, man!"
Yeah, we'll have to explain that whole thing down the road. All right, the rest of it.
So those were the rules. I mean,
incorrect. You're wrong on this because I know exactly what the rules were. It was if we need to pause it, we will say pause, and JB will pause. And if he can't get it paused in time, then it's going to just go to whatever happens to the computer. But the rules were if we say pause, as long as he has time to pause it, he will pause it.
10 seconds.
Yeah. But we're like, pause. And I was like, pause it. And like, no, worry about it. It's fine. Let it go.
Listen, it's a pandemic, man.
What does that have to do with the draft?
Adapt and overcome.
One million percent at the beginning of this draft. We went over what happens in a computer situation. A 1,000,000% we did that.
Right.
And it was, he will be told to pause, and if he has time to pause, he'll pause. That was what the decision was.
But you are ignoring the foundation upon which that rule was made, which is if you're trying to bid and you can't bid because your computer's not working, then you say pause.
Where was that clarified? No. It was if anybody is out, he'll be told to pause.
That's the whole part of the conversation. But here, I'm the one who has to nominate, and I'm saying it's fine. I'm
right.
Right. You don't get the change.
The nomination. Hold on. The nomination process is not an individual decision. You have to make that. You have to do it. If you would have said, "Go ahead and nominate," David Montgomery, that's fine. But you said I'm just good with. No, you have to make a decision.
No,
and if you're frozen, we can call pause. By the way, we have a timeout. So pause. Let's pause. The ruling was if somebody says pause and he has time to pause, we will pause. That was the rule. And I made sure, believe me, when we were discussing it before the draft, I made sure to pay very close attention because we set that rule. If he's told to pause, we will pause. That was the rule. It wasn't, well, if it's this scenario or this scenario, it was if he's told to pause, he'll pause. And he didn't.
Right. And if he misses the pause, tough shit. I remember that last part of the rule too.
Right. But there was not a maybe pause or maybe not pause. It was if he's told to pause, if he has time to pause, he'll pause. And he had plenty of time to pause. He had a full minute to pause it. A full minute.
But your grounds for asking for the pause are bullshit.
No, you were offline.
So what?
So once somebody goes offline, we can ask for a pause.
But I said I was fine with it. I said I was fine with the auto draft.
It's not an auto draft.
I mean,
it's a nomination process.
No, the nomination. But I said I was fine with it.
Yes, I do, Mr. Tiger Gator. That is the whole thing. Yes, that's right. My entire existence.
I would have to ask for the pause because I was the frozen one, but I didn't want the pause.
Right, but you still would have had to say then just nominate David Montgomery for me.
No. I have to name who the auto nomination is going to do. I said I'm fine with the auto. I'm good.
No, it's ridiculous.
You know what's funny about this?
Request for a pause was made.
There was an owner earlier in the draft. He ran out of time and auto draft went in and it threw someone out. Adam had no issue with it at the time because he wasn't interested in the player. So we had that happen twice.
Who yelled out pause?
No one needs to yell out pause. The only person
the whole point is if somebody asks for a pause, you pause. That's the whole issue. It's not auto drafting that's the issue. It's if somebody asks for a pause, it's an issue. It's not the auto draft that's an issue.
I didn't hear any of us had the right to just pause the draft whenever we wanted. I didn't.
100%. I believe me, I was paying attention. Yes.
Was
100%.
Was your computer frozen?
No.
Then shut the fuck up.
No, because I knew who was going to be auto drafted, and I knew that it was going to screw me if the auto draft happened. So once it said pause, we pause. How did I contradict myself? No, it's if you ask for a pause, it pauses. That's the whole rule.
The pause was about the frozen computer.
Yeah, and your computer was frozen, so I said pause.
To protect the person whose computer is frozen.
That was not made clear. And that was absolutely not made clear. It was if somebody is frozen, we pause, and if somebody asks for a pause, we pause.
No.
And there also is timeouts, as I pointed out. So if I say pause, that also can mean timeout.
Okay. I do know this one for a fact. You're inaccurate on that one. There was one timeout, not timeouts. So I now question.
I never called one. I
now question how closely you were listening. And by the way, we're never doing this without videoing it. So even if we're face to face, I will have a goddamn camera in the freaking setting, and we'll record the whole thing. So we can go.
Thank you. That's good. I like that.
Watch how often it's a bunch of bunk that you're arguing.
I like that. So are we saying that was not discussed before the draft? Of if there's a pause, we pause.
I didn't hear.
Are you saying that wasn't
that way?
Really?
We did discuss a pause, but it wasn't.
Of course we did.
Pause can call a pause on behalf of anybody else. I was on the line.
Right, but we didn't. No, but we didn't. We also didn't.
You called for a pause. You called for a pause because you weren't happy with my decision. There's no reason.
The decision wasn't made.
There was
no decision made.
I said it's fine.
Your decision was passed, but no, that's not acceptable. Once the pause is requested, pause.
You just proved my point. You were upset with my decision, which is that
wasn't a decision. Your non-decision.
I made a decision.
You don't get the right to make a no decision.
Why not? It exists.
Because the pause was requested. All that was discussed. The only thing discussed wasn't if this, if that. It was if there's a pause requested and there's time to make the pause, we will make the pause. That was the entirety of the discussion. The entirety of it. Now, what you're saying, I would actually agree with you. I would actually agree with you that the concept, the spirit of the rule was absolutely not in my favor. But the actual rule was if somebody requests a pause and there's time to make a pause, we pause. That was it. That was it. And you're right about the spirit of the rule, but you're wrong about the actual rule that was made. And we sat there and made the rule, and I made note of it and put it into place. That's it. So you have all the ground in the world to stand on for the spirit of the rule, for sure. But the actual rule made, you're wrong. I'm right.
Well, nobody seems to have remembered it the way that you're saying. You're now 0 for 3. So you haven't convinced the 6 of the 8 that you need to win in a jury trial. You've already lost.
That's fine. That's fine. But I think you're also. Like, if you were honest about it,
I am.
That is true. No, you're not. The spirit of the rule is different than what the actual rule was.
I don't remember that we just started saying, "Hey, anybody, should we have pauses?"
No, we didn't do that either. No, now you're stretching what I'm saying. We didn't specify either way. It was just if somebody says pause and there's time to pause, we pause. That's the only rule that was made.
If somebody says pause because discussed.
That's the spirit of the rule. You're right. That's not what the rule was.
No. The whole you don't get to sever off the conversation where you like it and say that's the rule. All of the conversation leading up to the segment that you like is relevant to the rule. We'll call it legislative history. Okay. That goes into what the purpose of the rule is. It is the actual rule. It is the history of the rule, and it is relevant to determining what the rule is meant to do. Not the spirit of the rule, what the rule actually is. And so you can't just ignore everything we were talking about leading up to the moment that we said, if a pause is requested, you'll give the pause. That's bullshit.
But that's all it was. That's all it was. If somebody says pause, you pause.
Okay, so we were sitting there talking about football, blah, 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 and then out of the blue, we just say, hey.
What it was?
Pause.
I think it was Sarin who said, okay, we're about to start. And he goes, okay, what if somebody needs to pause? And JB said, just say pause. And if I can get to it, then I'll pause it. That was it. That's it. That was the whole rule.
No. It was talked about a computer being frozen. It was absolutely discussed in that context.
I don't think that's accurate.
Yes, that's why we were on the fucking Zoom.
Right. Okay, right.
I mean, Zoom in the first place.
Right, but nobody specifically said, what if it's my computer?
Well, I was trying to auto-nominate the whole league.
Somebody said, what if somebody needs to pause? What if somebody needs to pause? And he said, just say pause. We'll pause it.
Dude,
That's it.
I'm not trying to be dishonest with you. I don't remember it just popping up at the last second with no discussion about frozen. I remember it specifically be saying, if your computer's frozen or something's going on, because we're doing this virtually. That's what I remember Seren talking about. We're doing this virtually for the first time. If somebody's computer's all fucked up or it's frozen and you need a pause, say pause. If he can't get it done in time, then you're fucked. We just got to deal with it.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes. And so the computer was frozen, and I said pause.
No, if your computer's frozen and you need a pause, then pause.
What if somebody's computer is frozen?
Get out of here with this. Dude,
That's what it was.
You're fucking out. You're insane, dude.
I pay very, very close attention to wording. Very close attention to wording. That's what it was.
You're ignoring all the wording before the wording that you like.
It was, what if somebody needs to pause, then say pause, and if there's time, we'll pause.
What was before that? Nothing? Get out of here.
I actually think the conversation before that, if I'm remembering correctly, was something totally different. It was a totally different conversation. And then we just jumped into, well, what if we need to pause?
Okay, dude.
It was.
I remember specifically the words frozen computer in this conversation.
Yes.
Okay,
Agreed.
that's not what you're saying. You're saying,
it is what I'm saying.
You're talking about any of that shit. And
if somebody's computer is frozen, what do we do? Say pause.
Okay.
Somebody's, not yours.
No, get out of here.
Yes.
Out.
Yes.
Here.
This is what I've said from the very beginning.
No, it's
somebody's computer, if somebody's computer is frozen, what do we do? Say pause, and he'll pause it if he has time.
Bullshit.
Yeah. You know the great thing out of this, Adam got a better player with the money.
Yeah.
So he got effed into a better player, but he keeps fighting.
I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. DK Metcalf is more of a guarantee to produce this year than David Montgomery. That was your second to last player for $7. If you had gotten Montgomery, you couldn't have bid on DK Metcalf for $7, and I would have got him. So now we can just measure all this freaking hoopla, and we'll see who made out better. You probably made out better.
But it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
No, it is, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because it matters which weeks exactly it happens, and I'll take you back to the Peyton Barber debacle when everybody was like, no. But I'll say this because people were like Peyton Barber had a bad year, and you raised hell about Peyton Barber, and he had a shitty year. And if everybody remembered, I needed a running back for the first 4 weeks. I needed only the first 4 weeks because I had a suspended player. So I wanted Peyton Barber because he had the job at the beginning of the year, and after 4 weeks, he was RB22. And then at the end of the year, he's like RB 38. And people are like, oh, he's terrible. Yeah, but when I needed him for the 4 weeks, he was 22, which is a starting running back. That's the kind of things I'm talking about. So it'd be the weeks that actually DK Metcalf plays as compared to when David Montgomery would have been in my lineup. That's what you have to compare, which becomes very, very difficult. It's not just the season long.
Dude, that fucking draft took 5 hours, and now you're taking another hour of my life talking about that fucking draft.
I'll do it for 10. I'll do it for 10 hours.
We know.
This is what I live for. It's what I live for.
And my computer's down to 3%. I don't even want to plug it in right now.
I don't blame you.
No, that's awesome. All right, we're going to go. We'll see you tomorrow night, 10:30. We'll have more information tomorrow about next week's fantasy football draft. Isn't it a joy to be in a league with Adam Hill? None of these listeners are going to join the league now. You have ruined